Welcome to Staying Connected, a podcast where I talk to people about their stories with VEDS, Marfan, Loeys-Dietz, and related vascular and aortic connective tissue conditions. This is your host, Katie, and before we get into the show, I want to remind you that the views, information, and opinions in this podcast are those of the individuals involved, and the information presented does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. Any opinions that I express in this podcast are my own and not of my employer. Welcome back. In this episode, we're going to talk with Paul Korotish, who was just diagnosed with VEDS last year after an iliac artery rupture. Before we jump into the interview, if you like this show and you want to support it, you can buy merch at my Printify pop-up store, make a one-time donation, or support the show by joining my Patreon. This show wouldn't be possible without the continued support of my Patreon subscribers and donors, so if you've already been supporting the show, thank you. Check out the episode show notes for links to ways to support. Let's get into the interview with Paul. Hey, Paul, thank you so much for joining the podcast today to talk about your story with vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or VEDS. Do you want to introduce yourself to people who don't know you?
Yeah, my name is Paul Korotish. I am 27 years old. I live in Spokane, Washington, and I've been diagnosed for about a year now.
And before we talk about your diagnosis, would you like to share anything else about yourself as your hobbies or, what you do that you enjoy in your life, just to make sure that people who are listening know, kind of get a sense of who you are?
Yeah, sure. I picked up fly fishing a couple years ago, so that's been a pretty big kick of mine the last couple summers. I love to golf. I've been doing that since I was a kid. That takes up a lot of my weekends as well. And then on Tuesday nights, I play in a pool league, so I keep pretty busy.
Cool. I love that. So how did your diagnosis come about last year?
Yeah, so in September 9 of 2023, I had a sudden rupture in my left iliac artery. And because that is not very common for people of my age group at 25, they referred me for genetic counseling. And that was done about 9 months after that. And I received my diagnosis July of 2024.
What was that rupture like?
Painful. It was very sudden. That day I had gone golfing and it was a normal day. And following that, I went to my parents' house. They were having a barbecue, like a birthday barbecue for my stepsister and stepdad, just a pretty average day. And then around 6:30 p.m., just kind of all of a sudden, I felt some discomfort in my stomach. I thought, it felt kind of like indigestion in a way that I hadn't really felt before, but I didn't really think much of it. And that lasted for about, 60 minutes or so, kind of steadily getting a little bit more intense. And then all of a sudden, just, like that, it just kind of hit me when I stood up, and then I collapsed to the ground, and I was, struggling to stay conscious. And, my left side right by my hip bone had some pretty intense pain, and I was sweating a lot. And, thank goodness, my sister and my stepsister are both nurses, so they were there and they were, on me right away. And I think, doing the sternal rubs, keeping me up, and cognizant. And the ambulance was there just a couple minutes later, and, all of a sudden I'm getting a free ride to the hospital.
What did it feel like in the period of time, there was 9 months between that rupture and then getting your actual diagnosis? So what was that period of time like for you?
It was a little confusing. There were some doctors that came up to visit. I guess my case was a little abnormal and turned some heads in the hospital. So I think there were some people that came and asked me some questions to figure out what was going on. But overall, it was kind of a lot of shoulder shrugging, and, we don't really know why this happened. So until we get some definitive results back from the genetic counselor, we can't really tell you much. So it
Yeah.
was just kind of I don't know what's going on. Your guess is as good as mine kind of thing, which isn't exactly what you want to hear from your vascular team.
No. I guess I should have asked how they fixed that iliac artery rupture for you.
Oh, yep. So I got 3 stents put in. One on the common iliac, just above the bifurcation, and then 2 on the external. And my internal, actually, they couldn't stitch back together, so I'm not getting any blood flow to that from the main common iliac. That's all from collateral sources now.
Yeah. Was that part of your, where does your open surgery come in?
Yeah, so let's see. The event happened in September, and I was doing 3-month CT scans. So at the second 3-month checkup,
Oh, this was like post iliac?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So post iliac and pre-diagnosis, I was just getting regular CT checkup scans. The first 3-month appointment was fine. Everything looked good, and the stents were patent and everything. Then the second one, they found an aneurysm in my right common iliac. So, again, kind of raising more questions like what's going on here, especially after I got an all clear from the first checkup that I had gotten. So we met with my vascular surgeon and kind of scheduled the surgery for that July to I think he wanted to do another angioplasty stent placement for it. So we scheduled that, and that was scheduled for like the third Friday in July or something like that. And my results came back from the genetic counselor on that Wednesday before, just a couple days beforehand. So I got those results, and then that was at like 6 p.m. When the office is closed at the hospital. So then I called on Thursday and said, I don't know if this changes anything, but I just got a diagnosis that I have vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and my doctor wasn't in at the time. So just the gal who answered the phone at reception said, "All right, I'll make a note of it, and I'll let Dr. Lockradder know. We'll let you know if anything changes." So I thought, oh, okay, must not be a big deal if she seems fine. And then the morning of my surgery that Friday, Dr. Knockreiner, my surgeon, called me and said, "Yeah, this changes things a little bit. This makes me a little bit hesitant of how to proceed. And so it's your call, but if it's all right with you, I think I'd like to meet with you and kind of discuss options." So we did that. I think I met him the next week or so, and he referred me to his colleague, Dr. Shalhoub, at OHSU. And then I met with her October 2nd, and she had a panel kind of discussing my case, and the kind of recommended course of action was reimplantation of the right iliac internal artery, and then kind of just as a prophylactic measure to do a bovine graft of my aorta so that there's no, future pathology.
Yeah. Could you explain what a bovine graft is for people who don't know what that is?
Well, my understanding is it's like a vessel from a cow that is in me.
So they replace your part of your aorta and your right iliac artery with that cow artery?
Yep, that's right.
How did that go?
It was good. Everything went about as well as it could have. I was on the table for about 13, 14 hours. So long surgery. And I believe it was the clamps that they were using to hold my duodenum out of place ended up scratching my duodenum. So I think about 9 or 10 hours in, when they were about done and ready to sew me back up, that happened. And so they had to wait for a general surgeon to come in and fix that scratch. So that was a kind of a delay of another 2 hours, which is why it lasted as long as it did. But I think that ended up being kind of a good thing, really, because they had 2 hours to look at their work and make sure that all the seals were holding and the felt was where it should be doing what it should be doing.
Yeah. So that's really not long after your diagnosis that this happens and you're like in there for this major surgery. What did you know about VEDS at that point?
Well, I had done a little bit of research. We had a sneaking suspicion that's what it was going to be because everyone said it's probably some connective tissue disorder. Which one it is, it remains to be seen. But
From
so I
when
was just
your
kind of doing research on all of
That
them.
was from when your iliac artery ruptured?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Pre-diagnosis. So I had looked at all of them, and VEDS checked off a lot of boxes that sounded familiar in my life. And I've always slept with my eyes open with no sort of medical explanation for that. So I reading that bullet point like was kind of a dead giveaway.
Yeah. What other things do you check on those boxes?
I definitely have always bruised easily. That's been a huge one for me. And my attached earlobes, my dad also had that as well. So yeah, that was kind of the big three.
Yeah. You mentioned your dad. Do you
Hmm.
want to talk about your dad a little bit and your family history?
Sure. So in September of 2010, my father passed away very suddenly, and we never really got a clear answer as to what happened. I mean, he was relatively healthy, all things considered, and then just kind of went to bed one night, and then in the middle of the night, just I remember clutching his chest, pain, and then he was gone the next day. And it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't until I got my diagnosis that we could connect some dots and figure out what happened. Because, in the autopsy and the death certificate, there was no clear cause of death listed.
Mm. How old were you when that happened?
I was 12.
This is a sensitive question and you don't have to answer it. But like,
Hmm.
did you grow up worrying that that might be a genetic thing?
A little bit, yeah, because actually his father passed away when he was 13, and so mine passing away at 12, I've always felt a little cursed in a way that that was going to happen to me.
Yeah. So then when your iliac artery ruptured, did you think of that right away, or had you like started
Yep.
connecting that dot,
Oh, yeah.
those
I
dots?
mean, right. I mean, where I collapsed was where he was the last time I saw him alive. So it
Oh
was
my
like the
goodness.
instant it happened. It's like, here we go. Time's up.
Oh,
You know. So yeah, it
yeah.
was it was a little emotional in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine. How did you get through those emotions? Or like, how do you cope with those emotions now? So it's like like it's a year post diagnosis, more than a year, I think, since your diagnosis, and these major medical events happening to you. How do you move forward with that?
Yeah. Well, I became a Christian just 18 months, 2 years before my rupture happened, and so for me, it's I lean pretty heavily into the providence of God, and I very absolutely believe in His plan for me, and there is nothing that happens to me that isn't under His control. So I've really been able to kind of surrender to that and why fight upstream when I don't have to and just kind of make the most of what's going on.
Yeah. Do you work still?
I do. Yep. I work for a pharmaceutical company here in Spokane, and I inspect and package product. So different medicines, mainly like we've got a couple cancer drugs that we work out. So it feels good to kind of do that. It's work I believe in.
Yeah. I should have asked you earlier when we were talking about your physical features if you'd had
Hmm.
other events in your life, like, arterial or not, that were kind of explained by this.
No, I mean, I've never broken a bone, never gone to the hospital, outside of a physical to do sports. I mean, this was something pretty surprising, pretty unprecedented. I
Yeah.
lived a very healthy life up until then. I'd say the only, I guess, injury that I ever sustained growing up, in high school, I took a weights class and I tore part of my right pectoral muscle doing a bench press, and there was huge amount of bleeding down my bicep after that happened. But I mean, other than that, it no indicators at all.
So now it's a year post diagnosis. Have you met anybody else with VEDS? I mean, besides me online.
Nope, you're it. You're my person.
Well, I'm happy to be your person.
Yeah.
Um, but I do hope that you meet other people in the community. It's a really beautiful community
Yeah.
of people supporting each other the best that we can. So it's a year like post diagnosis, and you've met Shireen, like Dr. Shalhoub, and you've had some
Mhm.
major surgeries. What do you want to do next with this information, I guess?
Well, I guess what I'd really like to do is, at least in the near future, I think the Discover trial is still accepting patients to try celiprolol. So I have an appointment with Shalhoub December 15th. So if that appointment goes well, I'm going to procure her advice on doing that, and I'd really like to do any sort of clinical trials that are available to help in any way I can in developing ways that help people like us survive.
Yeah, that word survive. It's a very emotional word for me with this. And I've
Mhm.
had more years to kind of like come to terms with my diagnosis than you, but I guess I really want to say that's cool that you want to get involved in research. It's just so important for our community to get answers.
Yeah, I mean it's a small community. I mean even in the medical field, the professionals, you say vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and you can tell it's the first time they've ever heard those words before, on some of them. So it's anything that I can do to you know help make the scene a little bit bigger. I have to.
Yeah. What is your hope for us in the future?
My hope for us in the future, well, I'd like to see a life expectancy greater than 49. I'd say push it up to average. I Man,
That's a
that's
big
kind of a tough
question. I'm
one.
sorry.
I would No, it's okay. I want us to be able to live a life normal. I would want some kid with VEDS to be able to play football if he wants to without having to worry about it, and not have to restrict his life because of it.
Hmm. Have you changed like your activity level in your life since this diagnosis?
A little bit. I wasn't leading a very intense, physical, demanding life prior to diagnosis, but I was lifting weights 4 or 5 days a week up until then, and I've cut back on that a little bit. So there won't be any world deadlift records, coming out of me. But that's pretty much it. I still
Yeah.
do all the stuff I have been doing.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. So you're still pretty new at this, relatively, like with the diagnosis. I mean, you've
Hmm.
had it your whole life, but you didn't know
Right.
what that was. Do you have advice that you would give somebody else dealing with this?
Yeah. I think really listen to your body. Um, Anything could happen at any given time. I mean, it's not like we wear what's going on the outside of our skin. It's all happening beneath the surface. So I'd say really listen to your body and don't be afraid to, go into the ER if you feel like something's a little numb, or if you feel like something hurts or is feeling like it shouldn't. It's it's not a very forgiving affliction. So, it's really on you to be on top of whatever you can be.
Yeah. How do you decide when to go to the ER? For you, like, this is not medical advice for anybody listening, but
Hmm.
it is a common question that I see when people are first diagnosed. Is like we go through this period of, is this something? Is it not something? Like, and how to tell? Like, how do you make those decisions for yourself?
Yeah, I think one, if there's pain that I don't feel on a daily basis, and how bad is that pain? How long has it been there? And once it reaches a certain threshold, I'd say I'd want to check myself in. And then I guess any numbness, any abnormal numbness, that would indicate some abnormal blood flow. I'd want to be somewhere where there's a CT machine, nearby. I guess those are the two real indicators that I would look for.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would want medical professionals listening to this podcast to take away from your story?
Yeah, I would want them to, I guess, pay attention to the phenotypical symptoms that someone with VEDS has. Ask the right questions. I think if there's one thing that is really an indicator amongst the interviewees that I've listened to you talk to, it's bruising, which I guess isn't specific to VEDS, but I guess just do the research.
Yeah. So it's really about diagnosis, like getting people diagnosed
Yeah,
would
absolutely.
be your takeaway.
Hmm.
So those are, if anybody's listening to this and you don't know the signs of VEDS, there's quite a few, and the 2017 International Classification of Ehlers-Danlos Syndromes has it. It's like a published article that has all of the features listed out. You can also go to thevedsmovement.org. The VEDS movement is a division of the Marfan Foundation that has some great information about VEDS on their website. So I encourage you to go and look for those features. Yeah, that is like the diagnosis period of, like, you were born with this, right? Like, I was born with this, you were born with this, not knowing until you have a really devastating event. Like, that's got to stop.
Yeah, I'd like for there to be a way for testing to be done young, some sort of exhaustive, inclusive blood draw that can let us know beforehand. Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, newborn. I think what you're referencing is newborn screening. It's
Hmm.
when they like do the little blood drop thing for a newborn and test for certain things. And man, I would love it if VEDS was on that list of things
Yeah,
to test for, and it isn't. And I know that there's very specific reasons why it isn't, but I would really, really love for there to be. Because then, it's like a combination of getting people diagnosed early and also having an effective treatment to prevent the bad things from happening. Like, those two things together, I think would make a huge difference for us as a community.
yeah, definitely.
Is there anything that you didn't get to share, or anything else about your story that you want to share?
I don't think so. I think I got all the meat and potatoes of what's going on. It's been an interesting couple years with it all. So I think honestly I'm still kind of, I think the dust is still settling a little bit with it all.
Yeah. Well, if somebody in the community hears your story and wants to connect with you, is there a way to do that?
Yeah, they can reach out to my Facebook. It's Paul Korotish, just like my name. So yeah, they can feel free to reach out that way.
Perfect. I will also put that in the episode description. So if you're listening to this now and you're like, oh, I want to connect with Paul, Like his social media information is down there for you to click on. Thank you so much for joining the podcast to share your story with VEDS. And I want to say, in the last few years, I've talked to more and more people, it feels like, who were just diagnosed. And I'm very appreciative of your interest in being part of our community and like being part of that movement to make a difference for people with VEDS. And it's really hard, like early diagnosis. And so I'm just very, very grateful for you coming on just a year after your diagnosis to share your story.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do anything I can. It's been a privilege to talk with you, and I appreciate everything that you're doing with this show.
Thank you, and stay in touch. You're not far from me, so anytime that you're in Seattle, I would love to get together.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thanks for listening to this episode featuring Paul Korotish, sharing his experience with VEDS. If you're ready to meet others, get involved, or need support, there are links for you in the episode show notes, as well as information on research studies for people with VEDS, Marfan, and Loeys-Dietz, including for those with a VUS. If you like this show, be sure to share it on social media or give it a rating or review. You can also support the production of this podcast by joining my Patreon, making a one-time donation, or by buying merch. As always, my top-tier patrons are listed in the episode show notes. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.